Also, I've got another story for you, which is going to be about why women talk more than men, but I'll run that one past you in a moment. First of all, let's get a voice note from Jonathan on Keir Starmer.
Mike, this is Jonathan here. I hear that two-tier Keir is on his travels again. He's in France today. He's been to the States, he's been to Ukraine, he's been to Germany, but one place he hasn't been to is the Bermuda Triangle. Pity doesn't get on a plane there and take his whole cabinet with him.
That would be good. The voice notes we get on this show are absolutely brilliant. What a good idea, the Bermuda Triangle. I wonder if people go in and don't come back out again. Let's talk about this COVID problem that he's got, though, right? Because we've got, I think it's Richard Holden coming on a little bit later on. He used to be chair of the Conservative Party. He's written a letter to Keir Starmer asking him specifically a series of questions about this revelation that came out again in this book, the Sunday Times book at the weekend, in which basically I think the book is called Get In, isn't it? And it's written by Patrick Maguire and Gabriel Pogrund, reported in the Sunday Times. Basically, Richard Holden's written to the Prime Minister asking about this incident that supposedly happened on Christmas Eve 2020, where he supposedly, and this is the funniest part of the story actually, wanted a voice coach. I mean, to get the voice coach to teach him to talk about fixing the foundations. I mean, that takes some doing.
It's because he sounds like Kermit the Frog.
Yeah, did he get Kermit the Frog in? No, apparently it was a woman called Leonie Mellinger. She's the one who's responsible for him.
Did you see a picture of her?
Yeah,
she was
wearing a mask.
A selfie of her.
There it is.
There, we put
yeah,
the picture.
That's her supposedly entering Labour Party headquarters on Christmas Eve.
And you know what really annoys me is the background. By the strength of, it's just mental, the communities and all this stuff. I have my glass, I can't read. Oh, there we go. By the strength of our common endeavour, we achieve more than we achieve alone. It's just insane. It's sort of a bit Soviet, if
It
you
is a
ask
bit,
me.
isn't it? Yeah. It's
but
a bit North Korean.
It is a bit North Korean. But what's really interesting is she was allowed key worker status.
Yes.
Because
and this is where I think you'll get caught out, because I think Labour so far have issued a statement saying that no COVID rules were broken. However, that's easy for them to say. If she was given key worker status when she shouldn't have been, which I think is probably going to end up being the case, then she broke the Tier 4 restrictions, because according to the Tier 4 restrictions, you're not allowed to travel to a work venue unless it's absolutely necessary. Now, you can call me old-fashioned, but I don't think having a voice coach is absolutely necessary.
No, and also absolutely could have happened over Zoom, right? I mean, that's the point. And what really is upsetting about this story, and I know that it's funny and hilarious when we can talk about it, but actually a lot of people across the country have had their lives entirely affected by the COVID-19 pandemic.
They couldn't see their relatives at Christmas, they couldn't see their children at Christmas, they couldn't see their animals at Christmas, they couldn't see their elderly parents sometimes. I mean, and a lot of people on social media at the moment using that picture of the Queen, if you remember, sitting in the Windsor Chapel at the funeral of her husband, and they've said, what a shame she didn't know she could have brought her voice coach with her.
Exactly. She could have broken the rules and it would have been fine. Yeah, I mean, it's that photo
such a haunting image, that, isn't it?
And actually, I mean, so many people have had different stories of this.
So ridiculous as well when you think back.
Yeah, it's insane. And also, I mean, there is, let's be very clear about this, for someone like the Queen, who was a lot older, I suppose there is a high risk of catching COVID and obviously affecting you.
Yeah, but the mask wouldn't stop it, I'm afraid.
The mask wouldn't stop it, and it means that she wasn't even able to properly grieve at her own husband's funeral. It's so sad.
I know.
My great uncle passed away during the pandemic, and I wasn't able to see him in the preceding month. So, these are stories that have happened across the country.
Of course, and everybody's got them. And if it turns out that Keir Starmer once again has been a hypocrite, then he's in real trouble. Have a look at what he said back at that time.
It's very important that whatever the rules are, everybody follows them. So I say follow the government advice. Whatever tier you're in, follow the rules. It's very important that we all say that, the government and the opposition. Whenever you have a tiered system, you'll have different rules in different parts of the UK. It makes it more confusing. But I think overall, the public will be saying, just when we want certainty, just when we want leadership, we've got inconsistency, confusion.
Did he say a tiered system there? Two-tier Keir.
I mean,
apparently he thought COVID rules didn't apply to him, perhaps.
This is the problem, is that it is one rule for politicians, one rule for the people that make the decisions about these rules, and it's one rule for us. I mean, I think most people can genuinely... I don't think Keir Starmer will be able to look people in the eye that have lost family members during the lockdowns and be able to say, yes, I had my voice coach with me. Actually genuinely admitting to these fundamental failures. When we're under Tier 4, we literally were not allowed to leave the house at all. It was properly strict lockdowns. I mean, honestly, it's quite haunting thinking about it.
I mean, I think most people, I'm certainly one of them, I've kind of forgotten all of it. You kind of deliberately, it's like childbirth. I mean, allegedly, I've never obviously given birth to a child, but, you know, women forget famously about childbirth altogether in order to get pregnant again, because it's such a horrible experience. I think it's the same here. You forget about what actually happened.
Yeah, we've all forgotten about how absolutely awful the pandemic was, but unfortunately for a lot of people, they haven't forgotten, and their lives have been affected by, I mean, so many children that are now behind in school as a result of basically having 2 years of inadequate learning. And what's really, so I was a part-time teacher at the time during lockdown whilst I was a student, and I would teach children with special educational needs. With a couple of children that they were either on the ASD spectrum, the autism spectrum, or they were dyslexic or dyspraxic or whatever it was, or dyscalculia, a lot of these different learning disabilities, which basically meant that they were unable to work via Zoom. It just didn't work for them. And from so many of those children in particular, under Tier 4 restrictions, a lot of them weren't able to go into school. So some of them were during other lockdown measures. A lot of them weren't able to go into school during Tier 4.
So much of it was unnecessary. That's the thing that we now know. And they're all agreeing now that they were unnecessary.
Yes.
You know?
Actually, the IEA published a paper, I think, a year and a half ago, what was the verdict on lockdowns and how much it actually affect. We had a 3.2% difference in mortality rates compared to Sweden. Sweden didn't lock down at all. So, I mean, again, 3.2% difference in mortality rates. That is absolutely negligible. Basically, all of the lockdowns were entirely pointless when it comes to statistics. Obviously, those 3.2% of people, it's great that they're alive today and it's wonderful. That being said, we're thinking about all of the social and economic costs.
Yeah, but since then, we know many more people have died as a result of the lockdowns than actually died because of COVID. We know that. Let's talk about something slightly stranger. Up in Scotland, right? This is the SNP, apparently thinking about banning cats. According to a story in the Mail, households in Scotland may soon be banned from getting a cat under extraordinary plans being considered to protect the country's wildlife, as apparently cats eat birds.
I love how you introduced this story when you said it as if they've not gone already quite nuts up there.
Yeah, I know. I mean, this is an animal welfare body called the Animal Welfare Commission, right? And basically one of the options that they are considering is banning cat ownership in some parts of Scotland where wildlife is most at risk. I mean, hello, are they going to ban things that eat cats? Are they going to, ban... Sorry, there's obviously a joke there about illegal migrants in America. Are they going to ban... Are they going to ban foxes? Because foxes can sometimes eat cats.
Or they're going to ban cars because
wolves.
they sometimes run over animals.
Yeah.
So we're going to ban cars.
Probably. Well, of course they're going to ban cars.
Ban cars, ban cats, ban dogs because sometimes they are quite aggressive towards other animals. So actually, I just think we should all just stay in a box.
Yeah, stay in a box.
And
15-minute cities. Don't get a car, just cycle everywhere. They're basing it, apparently, Australia, we've discovered this during COVID actually, Australia's quite a harsh country when it comes to, diminishing people's rights. Apparently in some parts of Australia, there are already cat containment areas where cats are not allowed outside. If you have a cat, you have to keep it indoors.
Australia are quite authoritarian
they really
some
are.
of their measures.
I once had a cat in New York who didn't go outside, and then we lived in a flat for like years and years and years, and then we finally bought an apartment with a garden. And the cat was the strangest thing watching it going outside. It was putting its foot on earth for the first time. It was like, oh, this is a bit weird. I'm not sure I like this. Yeah, but I mean, they've gone completely bonkers in Scotland, haven't they?
Yeah, that's absolutely insane. I mean, it's so interesting because there's so much discontent, I think, in Scotland itself with the way in which the conversations about Europe have happened. And obviously, they had the referendum in 2014 and how that all happened. Nicola Sturgeon, I think, was one of the most political party leaders I think that we've ever seen.
And what a fall from grace for her as well.
Oh, entirely.
I mean, she's now just a joke figure, isn't she?
She's just a joke figure. She's absolutely a clown. But what's really interesting is how she's remembered today, and actually the reason for her downfall is that she wanted men, a male rapist in women's prisons.
Yeah, until she realised it was a bad idea. And I still love that final interview that she did to ITV in Scotland.
I was wrong.
No, the one where she went... Yeah, so when the guy said to her, so what you're saying is there are circumstances under which men with penises cannot be women. And she went, yeah. And then she realised what she said, and it was kind of like this...
She said, oh no.
She was kind of like, oh, there goes my career.
She realised all of those trans activists were going to come after her after that interview. That's what happened.
Yeah.
Because when you pander to these people, when you pander to this kind of illogical chain of arguments, you absolutely have to go all the way. Yeah. And you realise halfway through, hold on, this actually makes absolutely no sense. In no way, and no matter what your view is on LGBT issues, There is no way having a man with a penis is, I don't know if is appropriate language for this time,
I
time
think
in
it's
the
fine.
morning.
Don't worry about it.
A man with male genitalia at in a female prison where they are absolutely capable of hurting those women.
It makes no sense at all. It's completely insane, as indeed is the next story we're going to tell you about in a moment, which is all about the railways, who apparently don't want you to use the word passenger anymore. Pretty soon they'll just do away with the trains and have a railway system that nobody uses. Let's get a voice note from James on Starmer.
Good morning, Mike. Starmer should be ditching the EU and should be doing a trade deal with America. Trump is a superb businessman and looks after his own country. He should be embracing Trump, but he won't. He'll suck up to those European cracks once again. Cheers, Mike.
Well done, James. Thank you very much indeed. One from Neil. He says, the Prime Minister abroad again? Who have we got running the country? Phileas Fogg. Well, he might as well be. It's certainly not Starmer. Even if you ask people in the Labour Party, they say it's not him. As I said earlier, they've likened him to the guy who sits at the front of the DLR, which, you haven't been to London, is a driverless train, which runs on a monorail between places like Canary Wharf, City Airport, Bank Station, that kind of thing. But they always have a driver that sits there just in case. But he's not actually driving the train. Just imagine. You could, I mean, maybe we could mock him up as a guy with this little Thomas the Tank Engine hat on. He's just sitting there going, I'm driving a train. But you're not actually, Keir. It's being controlled by a robot. Oh, sorry, no, that's you. This is Talk.